Hi everyone, this is lesson number 1 from class 11, The Portrait of a Lady by Khushwant Singh. But before that, if you have not subscribed my channel, please do so. Thank you for your love and support. Let's start the lesson. This lesson is a portrait of a lady. This lady is Khushwant Singh's grandmother. So here he gives us a character sketch or a pen picture, a portrait of his grandmother. He has seen his grandmother as an old woman and she remains the same for the past 20 years. There is no change in her. She is terribly old as per the author. She is a widow now. Her husband has died many years ago, and the author also gives description of his grandfather, whose picture is hung in the drawing room. He is an old man with turban, and the author says that he doesn't believe that this person would have been married to his grandmother. And the author's grandmother, she often talks about her past, which is unbelievable for the author. The author believes her stories to be like fables, totally absurd and undignified. His grandmother is a short, fat and slightly bent woman. Her face is a crisscross of wrinkles. That means her face is completely wrinkled. She's old, not pretty at this point of time, but she's beautiful. She has white silver locks. That means white hair. Her face is pale, puckered, and she wears a white dress, and she looks like the author compares her to a winter landscape. She is a religious lady. She keeps telling the beads of her rosary, and she believes in morning prayers. She sings her morning prayer whenever she used to give birth to the author as a child. She would sing her morning prayers in a monotonous voice. She loves animals. We can see that how she keeps chapatis to feed the dog, or how she herself gives crumbs of bread to the birds. So she is an animal and bird lover. She is very orthodox. She doesn't like author going to English schools because it doesn't teach them about God or about scripture. She considers music as a monopoly of harlots and beggars. She doesn't find it fit for children from good homes. She loves her spinning wheel, and during the last years of her life, she spends quite a lot of time on her spinning wheel. She hides her emotion. She doesn't show her emotions when she doesn't like the school of the author, or she doesn't even show it when the author goes for higher studies for 5 years. She is not sentimental. She goes into her own world of silence whenever she doesn't agree with what is happening. And the author has different stages of his relationship with his grandmother, and there are 3 stages mentioned here. First one is as a child. As a child, their relationship was very good. They were good friends. The grandmother would wake him up and help him to get ready for school, give him bath, and then they would both go to the temple, where he would go for learning alphabet and morning prayer, while she would read scriptures in the temple. And on the way back, they would carry still chapatis, and they would also feed the dogs. They would go together and they would come back together. So there was a strong bond shared by both of them as a child, because author's parents, they were not there in the village. So grandmother and the author, they were very close to each other. But as a boy, they shifted to the town along with his parents, and there came a turning point in their friendship. They no longer get time to spend with each other. They would also not go to school together. He would go in a motor bus, and they would see less of each other as the author got busy. And she did not like his English schooling, as we have discussed earlier, because it didn't teach about God and scriptures. And she was very disturbed when he was even taking music lesson. And she lived in her own world. She showed her disappointment by not speaking at all. And as a young man, their friendship was completely snapped. Author got a room of his own, and the grandmother, she accepted her seclusion, her lonely life. She would spend most of the time by the spinning wheel. She would also feed birds for half an hour every day, and this would be the best time for her. She would be very happy to feed the birds. The author then went for higher studies for 5 years. She came to drop him to the railway station, but she was not at all sentimental. She just hugged him and gave a kiss on his forehead. And she didn't show any emotion. She continuously would be telling the beads of her rosary, and there was no physical contact between author and the grandmother, but just that one kiss. And after 5 years, when he came back, still she doesn't have time for words. She came to the station, she hugged him, but at that point also the author could hear her singing her prayer, and she would be just telling the beads of her rosary. The same evening when the author came, she collected all the women of the neighborhood and she started playing drum and singing the homecoming of the warrior. She didn't sing about the author's homecoming. Everybody tried to tell her that she need not strain, but she didn't stop. And the next day she fell ill. She now realized that she had to spend her time saying the prayers. She did not leave her rosary. She kept on praying and she passed away the same day. There were thousands of sparrows and birds who came to say goodbye when they were taking her to be cremated, and they had a stretcher to pick her up. At that time, they could see thousands of birds who have come to say goodbye to her. Even when the crumbs were thrown to them, they didn't eat, and those crumbs got collected in the dustbin. That means even the sparrows and birds loved her. So, Portrait of a Lady is a pen picture of Khushwant Singh's grandmother, and through words we get to know about the grandmother and also the author's relationship in different stages of his life. We know this grandmother to be a religious woman, an animal lover, very orthodox, but loving and caring towards the author, even till the last day of her life. I hope you liked the explanation. Please like, share and subscribe. Thank you for giving your valuable time.